Hello everyone, and welcome to this month's JoJolion chapter review and discussion, Halloween edition. I decided to decorate the backdrop of this month's JoJolion review just because, JoJo seems to be in the Halloween spirit this year, because the current arc we're in with JoJolion is pretty horrific. There's a lot of body horror in it, and probably one of the more terrifying arcs that we've had so far in JoJolion. And I'm sure you all know that the Part 5 anime is currently airing as well, and we're in the middle of the Black Sabbath fight, which is another horror arc in JoJo that has a big horror aesthetic to it, so I thought this would work well for this month. So let's get right into JoJolion chapter 80, which is another big milestone for the part. We are already so deep in JoJolion and we don't have an end in sight. Well, we have a little bit of an end in sight, but I still think we're a few years off the conclusion of JoJolion, and we're getting close to Steel Ball Run length right now. We might even be, JoJolion's length might already be longer than Steel Ball Run, but you might say, but xForts, Steel Ball Run was like 100 chapters and we're only in 80 in JoJolion. But you gotta remember, the beginning of Steel Ball Run were weekly. They weren't in Ultra Jump yet. They were still in Shonen Jump, I believe. So the chapters were around 18 to 19 pages, and that was the standard until like volume 5, maybe a little bit earlier. So overall page length, JoJolion may already be longer than Steel Ball Run, which is crazy. But to get onto this month's chapter, let's start off with the cover of Ultra Jump, which we have this month. I don't believe we were on the cover last month. We have an amazing Ultra Jump cover. You have Paisley Park in the background, thick as fuck. You have Doggy Style in this nice blue color palette that I really like, and just what I would consider the main cast of JoJolion. Throughout all of JoJolion, we've have like minor characters like partnering up, like, Josuke and Joshua would team up for one arc or so, and then Josuke would team up with another family of the Higashikata family like Kyo, or he would have his interaction with like Daya, but there was never like a standard group that would always be with each other until around chapter 59 to 60, around when Blue Hawaii started, and that's when I feel like we established like our JoJolion main cast, which is Yasuo, Mamazuku, and Josuke. It might just seem like that because they've been really the only characters in the story for the past like 2 years now, but I really think that this is what JoJolion's main cast is like, these three major characters, and also Jobin seems to get a lot of screen time as well, but he's not really part of the main cast, so just the main key players we're all familiar with, and everyone just looks really good. Amazing amazing Ultra Jump cover. So now we can get on to the actual chapter cover itself, which is highlighting Mitsuba's stand, which we learned the name of. We'll get into it later in the chapter, but I really love the design of this stand. We talked about it so much last month, but you just have its amazing design with the arrows all over it, which do tie into its ability. This chapter this month, it might seem like it's packed full of a lot of stuff. It's a big 40-page chapter, but honestly, not a lot happened in it. The first like 13 pages were just a recap of what happened off screen, but we'll get into it. So I really like this chapter. I liked how it highlighted Mitsuba's stand, but overall, not a lot happened. And there was something super annoying in it that we'll get into later. Most of you guys probably already know what I'm talking about, but just Mitsuba's stand, huge cloaked, dark face, really awesome. I love the way this stand looks. And chapter is of course called Equivalent Exchange in the University Hospital Part 4. So like I said, I knew this current arc, Equivalent Exchange University Hospital, was going to be pretty long. This could be like a 6-parter maybe. That might be the longest count-wise that we've seen in JoJolion so far, because things happen, but by no means does this arc conclude in this chapter. So alright guys, however many minutes we're into the review already, we're finally getting on to the actual pages. And it's honestly not a lot happening. We see a little bit into Wu Tomaki's like personality, I guess, but for the most part, we're just seeing what happened off screen. I knew Araki was gonna do something. Like as soon as something exciting happens in JoJolion, the pace kind of like slows back down. I was like, I think we're gonna go into like a flashback next chapter, but obviously this whole chapter is not flashback. We're just getting more context to what happened off screen. And it's kind of annoying because it's a lot of repeated dialogue between Mitsuba. So we just see after, her legs turn to stone, and Yasuo last chapter was like, Mitsuba, don't you remember what happened? Like, he took you into the room and he operated on you, and what happened? And she was like, I don't really remember. And the chapter ended off with the cliffhanger of what was exchanged. Her legs were fixed, nothing seemed to be wrong with her on the outside, but she did mention that she was pregnant, Mitsuba, obviously. So that alluded to the Rokakaka's equivalent exchange ability, taking away from her unborn fetus. Like I said, guys, horror aesthetic this month for JoJolion. Really, really horrific chapter. So we just see Tamaki taking Mitsuba into the gynecologist department of the hospital, and she's giving her like an ultrasound, and she's like, okay, you're 13 weeks pregnant, and she's like, wait, and that's when she first finds out that she's pregnant. And also we see a little bit into Tomaki's personality. It really had nothing to do with what Mitsuba was talking about. He just sort of brought this up out of the blue. He was like, Mitsuba, do you know when you're a child, when your parents say it's okay to fail? He just totally flexes on her. He's like, me, Tamaki, have never failed once in my entire life. Never with women, never on a driving exam, never on a test, never in anything. I have always succeeded. I don't know what failure is. So I guess that's just an insight into Tomaki's personality. He doesn't fail. He's just amazing. And I guess that he's allowed to do that because of his stand ability, being able to break himself completely down. I don't know how that would help him on a driving exam, but he's allowed to do that. So Tamaki is, 500 IQ, big brain. And the last big important thing we see in this flashback is the room where the hospital keeps all of their Rokakakas. None of them are the new Rokakaka because obviously Jobin and Tsurugi are in possession of the new branch that is able to create those, but we just have all the old ones. And it's like, if you look at the door that it contains them in, it reminds me a lot of the Legend of Johnny Joestar. And at the end of Steel Ball Run, where there was the big safe that held the corpse parts, that's sort of the same safe design that they're going with right here, that Araki decided, which works. And yeah, it's just a room filled with Rokakaka, so obviously the hospital is able to grow these, and they have access to a large quantity of these, and that's why they're able to make so much off their patients, obviously extorting them over and over again, just fixing one thing, destroying another. So that's pretty much all there was to the flashback. We just see what happened in the gynecologist department when Mitsuba lost her memory. And then we switch back to where we left off on chapter 79, last chapter, where Mitsuba and Yasuo are running away from Tamaki as he attacks them, as he breaks himself apart, and they're just being barraged by his body completely broken down. So it's pretty safe to assume, well, we know for sure, but after this flashback, it was safe to assume that Mitsuba was brought into the gynecologist department. She was fed some of the Rokakaka, and her unborn baby was exchanged to fix the other part of her body, which was her legs, I believe, that were being destroyed by the Rokakaka. So nothing outside visibly was damaged by her, but obviously she had a major loss on the inside. Although she didn't even know she was pregnant until that happened. She just found out. And now we get into the most frustrating part of this chapter that is just so annoying. I really hate in movies, TV shows, books, manga, when certain characters are just taken out of the story for no good reason. And I mean, I like when authors incorporate a good reason into characters not being where they're supposed to be. Like, something came up over here, it makes sense, this character has to leave, and then this puts a character in a situation where they have to do something by themselves. But the way that Araki took this, the way that Araki handled, taking Mamazuku and Josuke out of the story right now to focus just on Mitsuba and Yasuo was terrible. It's dog shit. Pretty much, Josuke and Mamazuku are in the hospital lobby, walking away, and Mitsuba and Yasuo are coming out of the room screaming, Josuke, Mamazuku, we're over here, making a big ruckus. People are falling down. There's just a huge thing happening in the hotel, not the hotel, but the hospital lobby, and Josuke and Mamazuku are just walking away like they didn't hear a single thing. It's like in part 4 when Josuke is screaming at the top of his lungs, and Jotaro's like, there's some loud rain. The rain's pretty loud today. That must be what I heard. So it's just so annoying seeing this. Like, there's no reason why Josuke or Mamazuku wouldn't be able to hear them. They're literally like 30 feet away from them, and people are falling. There's like a huge commotion happening, and Josuke and Mamazuku are just like, it's a big hospital. Yasuo, where you at? Yasuo. It's so annoying. I really didn't like the way that was handled, and I think there could have been a better excuse for them not to be in the story. Just don't even show them at all. Just assume that they're in a different part of the hospital. It's frustrating that they even showed their backs as they walk away like that. But I guess Mamazuku and Josuke were unable to hear Yasuo and Mitsuba's screams, and now they're in a big situation where they're being attacked by Tomaki's stand by themselves. But now that Yasuo and Mitsuba have a general idea of what Tomaki's stand ability is, they have some ways to defend against it as it's surrounding them. They're like, cover your mouth, like cover your ears, don't let it enter your body in any way. So they sort of know what it does, but they're still trying to come up with a big way to fight against it and actually fight him. And while this is all happening, Tamaki is, I really love his design. Like, we see so many cool panels of like a profile shot of his head where it's like fading away. I think his stand's really cool, and we actually learn more about it in this chapter. He says that that's all my stand ability is. He says my ability is to break my body down and disassemble myself and, you know, go wherever I want, but that's all I can do. That's it. So I'm like, okay, dude, if that's all you can do, how do we explain the events of chapters 78 and 79 where there was an electric shock in the hospital and you broke down a wheelchair in a matter of seconds? How would you be able to do that if your only ability is to be able to break your body down? So maybe there's other stand users in the hospital, other rock humans, definitely possible. While Tamaki's talking, he also lets us in on some intel because if you guys remember, he was in the ambulance with the license plate 311 that retrieved the branch that I thought that was the new one. But I guess Tamaki, like I said, 500 IQ, the dude's just extremely smart. He was like, first of all, he's saying, I need to protect Mitsuba. I need to keep Mitsuba coming to the hospital because she provides crucial intel on the Higashikata home. She's able to tell me what's going on there. I assume just like, you know, if you're going to the doctor's office, you know, your doctor will always tell you like, so how's your summer been? How's work going? What are you up to? I like how Tamaki uses that as a way to extort Mitsuba as crucial information. So next time you go to the hospital or the dentist and your doctor starts asking you questions, just know that they might be a rock human spying on you, trying to get information on your family. So don't tell him shit. But Tomaki's in on everything. He knows that Jobin and Tsurugi have their hands on the new Rokakaka branch somehow because he's like, okay, I know Tsurugi's stand ability. They must have started the fire. They must have tricked us. They have the branch. It's like, okay, it's just like a genius character just for the sake of being a genius. So I don't really like how he was able to determine the situation so quick. But I guess he's just like all knowing. He doesn't fail. But now we get into probably the best part of this month's chapter is when Mitsuba's stand is fully revealed and we see its ability. So Mitsuba, Yasuo on the ground being attacked by Tamaki, and then Mitsuba I knew her stand was going to do something with arrows, something with movement, misdirection, just being able to move things and work with momentum. So that was pretty apparent by the stand's design that we were shown at the end of last month's chapter and the beginning of this chapter with all the arrows all around her. And what she does is that arrows start coming out of her hands and she has access to 3 arrows and she can point them in different directions at the same time and repel everything coming at her, just pretty much move. It's sort of like Sea-Moon. If you guys remember from part 6, it can sort of change gravity. So when she places the arrows down, everything gets pushed away from her. So she sets them all down. Tomaki's stand starts going away, which is like, isn't that just the most convenient stand to have in this fight? Her stand's nothing to do with no elemental ability, nothing outlandishly crazy like we've seen before, but just the perfect stand to keep Tamaki away from them. That is too convenient, Mitsuba. But honestly, it's a really cool stand, and I really like the way it works. It makes for some awesome panels, like when she puts the 3rd arrow on Tamaki and it shoots him up to the ceiling, and she kicks him in the face. That's just awesome looking. But honestly, when this stand was being described, I was like, dude, is this an OC stand? Like, this stand right here feels more like an OC compared to any other stand we've had in JoJolion yet. Because whenever people make an OC stand, usually it's like 3 parts or something. It's like, it usually has multiple forms or multiple parts to it. But this one was really interesting, how she was limited to 3 arrows and she could place them anywhere. I don't know. I just got an OC stand vibe from this. But we actually learned the stand's name as well. It's called Awakening 3 Leaves. And the first time I read this chapter, I kept saying Awakening in my head. So if you guys catch me calling it Awakening 3 Leaves throughout, the rest of JoJolion, just be sure to correct me on it because I'll definitely mess up a few times. But Awakening 3 Leaves. And one thing that everyone was wondering is that is Mitsuba's stand going to have King in the name? Because technically she is a member of the Higashikata family, but not by blood. And she does. It's sort of like Walking Heart. Obviously, it's not like Nut King Call or California Cane Bed that has King directly in it, but King is part of Awakening, obviously. So whatever. I guess like at birth, no matter what your stand is, say Mitsuba's stand was called like Arrow Queen or something, just a random name. Once she gets married to Jobin, now that she's a member of the Higashikata family, they're like, oh, by the way, gotta change your stand name. It's gotta have King in it. So either it was just a coincidence that her stand was called this, or she got her stand after she married Jobin. And also a little bit more on the name. I don't know the reference to this one. I think it's going to be something like a play on pronunciation, like Nut King Cole is in reference to Nat King Cole, the black musician. So I don't know what this is going to be a reference to. I haven't really seen anything online or anything, anyone determining what this stand's reference is. I'm sure you guys are going to be able to find out after you do some digging, but I honestly didn't know what this one is. Obviously, the name sort of relates to the ability, awaking 3 leaves. She's able to summon 3 arrows. I guess the arrows represent the leaves, and she sets them down. So I guess the name makes sense, but it's just another weird musical reference, if it even is a musical reference. Because some stands in the series, I still haven't found the musical reference for. Walking Heart is one. Some people have linked me the song called like Walking Heart Attack, but that song's like really obscure, and it just doesn't seem like it would be a musical reference in JoJo. So I still think Walking Heart's musical reference is unknown, and this one might go unknown as well. So maybe Araki's getting a little bit more experimental with the stand names here, and maybe they're not even musical references. So I'm excited to see if anyone can find out what this one is, but I don't know, dude. So like I said, guys, this chapter, it was pretty long. It was, big 40 pages, but not a lot actually happened in it. We pretty much just saw Mitsuba's stand get highlighted. We see her use it in a few more ways. After they sort of get Tamaki out of him, she kicks him in the face and Tamaki retreats. She's like, all right, let's get all these parts out of my body. And she does something really cool. She puts an arrow on the back of her hand, and it's able to force out all of Tamaki's body parts, I guess you could call them, out of her skin that just completely remove him from the body, which is like, again, what a perfect stand ability to combat Tamaki's stand, which we still don't know the name of. I'm excited to hear that musical reference. But once Mitsuba uses her ability to get everything out of her body is where we get like the big shock of this chapter. You see little hands made of rocks come out of her fingernails and onto the ground that are actually like moving. They're like twitching. So as we know, when something is exchanged, it turns to rock. Her legs turned to stone. The back of her head got all flaky and was rock-like. So, confirmed, Mitsuba's unborn baby has been taken away from her from the rock humans, and it pretty much, it's dead. You see that with its hands on the ground, and that is like, dude, that was like shocking. Like, not a lot of stuff in JoJo is like really shocking when you read it, but this was like a big oof for me. And then that brings us to the final page of the chapter where Tamaki begins to reappear, and he says, "Never fails, I never lose." And again, just a cool profile shot of his head with him reforming. So Tamaki, absolute madman. He's pretty insane. He's pretty powerful as well. And now that we've known he's never failed in his life, he seems like a pretty tough enemy. But I still don't get any like major villain vibes from him or anything. I still think he's just a minor villain nearing the end of the part. So obviously he's more powerful than some. But chapter 80. Pretty good chapter. I liked it. I liked Mitsuba's stand. I like being introduced to that. But I just wish more happened. I wish that flashback that took up the first 13 pages of this chapter was a little bit shorter or just cut entirely. Honestly, I didn't see it to be very relevant in what was happening. And also when Josuke and Mamazuka were just walking away and totally ignored Yasuo's yells, that was super frustrating to read. But all in all, I really like this chapter as it introduced us to another stand user, Mitsuba. And just think about how many stands we have in the part right now that are allies. You have the entire Higashikata family, except for maybe Jobin. He might not want to work together with everyone else, but you have the whole family, which is like Norisuke, Hato, Joshu, Daya, and I think that's the 4 that would actually help out. And then maybe Kyo, if she ever wants to come back into the story. Josuke, Mamazuku, Yasuo, Mitsuba now. We have so many ally stand users. It's almost insane. So obviously not all of them are going to be present in whatever the conclusion of the part is, wherever there's a big fight or something. But it's insane to think how many stand users we have that are our allies in the part. Maybe the most out of any part before. I'm trying to think back to part 4. Obviously, the Morioh Warriors, the Duangain, there was a lot of stand users there because most of the enemies that they fought turned good and sort of helped everyone out, and the whole city became like a big family, or at least all the stand users in the city. So I guess since part 8 is the alternate universe version of part 4, it would make sense for there to be a lot of ally stand users, but there's just a lot going on. I don't think there's going to be another ally introduced because Mitsuba was already like, I was convinced that Mitsuba was never even going to be in the story again, but now she's back and she's a stand user and she's really powerful and she's fighting, but that was just totally unexpected. So that's going to conclude chapter 80. I think Mitsuba's a really good addition to the cast though, because Josuke sort of has his like friend-mentor relationship with Mamazuku. They do everything together. So it's nice to see Yasuo get sort of that same character type for her as Mitsuba. I think they could become good friends and she could work as like a mentor to her because they're both stand users and Mitsuba is just a bit older than her. But that's going to do it, guys. Chapter 80. Let me know if you guys like the chapter. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the chapter. I hope you enjoyed the video, and have a happy Halloween, guys. All right, see ya.